The Cubs come away with a win to cap off a very exciting weekend at Wrigley Field, which included Anthony Rizzo returning and both Kerry and Aramis Ramirez inducted into the Cubs Hall of Fame. But is this win enough to spark the Cubs on one last push, or is this all for naught? We're going to talk about that and more on this edition of the Cubs Baseball Channel. Make sure to like and subscribe. Get in that comment section. Let us know how you're feeling about this team as they honored two Cubs legends and welcomed another one back to Wrigley Field. Here is your invitation to our show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Cubs Baseball Channel. And what do you say, everybody? Cubs coming off a win yesterday against the New York Yankees. My name's Anthony Pasquale. You can find me on Twitter at @Ant_Pasquale3. You can also find the Cubs Baseball Channel on Twitter and on TikTok. So make sure to follow us on there. Get engaged with us. See what we're posting, get in our comment sections and talk to us on there. But let's get right into it here. The Chicago Cubs finally are victorious. They beat the New York Yankees 2-1 yesterday at Wrigley Field. The game only featured 9 hits altogether. The Cubs had 3 of them, and one of them was the big blow. Isaac Paredes did some damage against a team he saw quite a bit when he was a member of the Tampa Bay Rays. A 2-run RBI single in the bottom of the first inning was all it took for the Cubs to get the win. So congratulations to Paredes for his game-winning RBIs with the clutch hit early in the ball game. But a lot of this weekend wasn't about the action on the field. But if we are going to talk about it, in 3 games, the Cubs were only able to muster up 8 hits. That is simply not good enough. Obviously, the Cubs throw a no-hitter themselves on Wednesday, beating the Pirates 12-0. Then the off day Thursday, then they get 1 hit on Friday. They lose 3-0. They give up 4 hits on Saturday and then just 3 yesterday. So really quiet offensive weekend. And if you really think about it, if you entered this series knowing that with Jordan Wicks, Javier Assad, and Jameson Taillon on the mound combined, you would give up 6 runs to the New York Yankees, you probably would think you sweep them. But the fact of the matter is, if you only get 8 hits in an entire 3-game series, you're lucky to even win 1 game, which is what the Cubs were able to do yesterday with a 2-1 win. Jameson Taillon gets the win on the mound, his 10th of the season. And then Porter Hodge got the save. And boy, is he starting to come around as a closer in this league. Obviously a small sample size, but if you look at his entire year as a whole, he's been pitching a lot of high leverage situations. And I really got to say, I'm happy of what Porter Hodge has become and what he started to look like, especially late in ball games. His season ERA is down to 1.70, and he picked up his 4th save of the year. He's only 23 years old, so you can hope and expect Porter Hodge to be a big piece in this bullpen for years to come, and hopefully for his stock to continue to rise as a back-end piece. That being said, I do think the Cubs obviously still need to make a lot of adjustments and address a lot of question marks at the back end of that bullpen. Do I believe Porter Hodge will be a piece of the back end of that bullpen in the future? Yes, I do. But I don't think you can bank on that because of how volatile bullpens are. A year ago right now, we were talking about how Adbert Alzolay was going to be a fixture in the back of the Cubs bullpen. Injuries happen. Ineffectiveness happens. Adjustments happen. So what you need to do is to make sure you don't buy too much into this. Sure, Porter Hodge could be your closer for the next 5 to 10 years, but he also could have a rough year next year, and you're going to need somebody to close down games no matter what, and he's not going to be able to close every game. So this offseason, it's still going to be super important to address closer. Doesn't have to be you don't have to go out and pay $1 million for Josh Hader and Aroldis Chapman, those types of players. But what you do need to do is get guys that you're confident in high leverage situations late in games. The Cubs thought that they had that in Hector Neris. That obviously didn't work out, but you also can't only sign one. The Cubs need to make sure they enter next season with enough bullets to withstand whatever comes their way and to still be able to close games, because if they closed half the games that they blew this year, we'd be talking about this team seriously making a playoff push. But let's get into some of the other things this weekend. Obviously, Anthony Rizzo returned back as a member of the New York Yankees for the first time since being traded to the Yankees at the 2021 deadline. Obviously, Rizzo, a huge champion from the 2016 World Series Cubs team. You see the banner hanging right above my head there, but he was also such a fixture in this city, in this community, does so much work for pediatric cancer through the Anthony Rizzo Family Foundation. Awesome player, awesome teammate, awesome leader, ton of accolades, Gold Gloves, Silver Sluggers, obviously the World Series, All-Star appearances. So he was honored, of course, on Friday. A big tribute video. They played his walk-up song for his first at-bat. Standing ovation every time he came to the plate. But then the Cubs fans did the same thing Saturday, and they did the same thing yesterday. And I think Anthony Rizzo deserved every bit of it. He got another standing ovation yesterday, tipped his hat to the crowd, and we don't know if we'll ever see him playing in Wrigley Field again. So, and I think he understood that some fans might have only gotten to see him Sunday, and they weren't there Friday, so they deserved the tip of the cap from Anthony Rizzo, the captain of that 2016 World Series championship team. So kudos to the Cubs fans. They rocked. They did it again all weekend. I'm sure Anthony felt very appreciated because he is. He is the most important person to the 2016 World Series championship. And for so many of us, that was like the best moment or best day or best year of our lives. So he deserves a lot of thanks for that. And I think he got honored properly. But the other big part of the weekend is that the Cubs honored Kerry Wood and Aramis Ramirez for being inducted to the Cubs Hall of Fame. Kerry Wood, of course, came up in the late 90s, early 2000s, had a bit of a pudgy face, and then he struck out 20 batters in his like seventh start. And it was, oh man, this guy's for real. One of the best pitchers I've ever seen. The movement he had on his pitches was just unbelievable and stuff that you didn't see back then. He was my first ever favorite player. So this is really cool for me. I've also caddied for him once before. Very nice guy. Couldn't have happened to a better guy, and a guy that was around for so many memories for the early 2000s Cubs. And similar to that, Aramis Ramirez as well, one of the most clutch hitters of the 2000s. A few walk-off home runs come to mind, one against the Sox, one against the Brewers. And he was just a guy that invoked fear into opposing teams when there was guys on base. And the Cubs have had so many problems this year with runners in scoring position. They could use a guy like Aramis Ramirez in their lineup. So congratulations to both of those guys for being inducted into the Cubs Hall of Fame. And it makes me wonder, so I'm going to pose the question to you, who's next to come into the Cubs Hall of Fame? Obviously, players from the World Series team will get in eventually, but while some of them are still active, you know, your Rizzos, your Bryants, your Baez, maybe even Schwarber, probably won't get in until they're all done playing, which means you might also hold back on saying like John Lester or Jake Arrieta, even though they're in their retirement. Some of the other guys that also deserve it aren't retired yet. So maybe you wait on all of those guys and do them later. But what about Derek Lee? Is he a guy? Did he do enough compared to Aramis where they're on the same level in your mind? What about Alfonso Soriano? He's another player that was there, probably not quite as long as Ramirez and Lee, but had some really strong seasons as well. I think pitching-wise, Carlos Zambrano and Ryan Dempster come to mind from that era, from late 2000s or late 90s, early 2000s range. And then the big question mark is Sammy Sosa, right? Are the Cubs ever going to make good on Sosa? I know there's a lot of mixed feelings in terms of the ethics of what he did and the integrity of what he did. But the fact of the matter is so many people loved Cubs baseball because of Sammy, and they watched Cubs baseball because of Sammy. And, you know, Barry Bonds is in the Pirates Hall of Fame and the Giants Hall of Fame, and Mark McGwire's in the Cardinals Hall of Fame. So, like, why not Sosa? I think the fans would love it, and I do think it would be a good step in the right direction for the Cubs organization. So let me know your thoughts on that as well. But the Cubs currently are in second place in the NL Central, 5 games back in the NL wild card. The Braves won yesterday, but the Mets didn't. So the Cubs did pick up a game and are 5 games behind both the Mets and the Braves for that third wild card spot. They have a 1.1% chance to make the playoffs as we wake up today on September 9th. The Cubs play the Dodgers tonight. They've got a 3-game set in LA, so it's going to be some late games. They play at 9:10 tonight, 9:10 tomorrow, and 9:10 on Wednesday before the off day Thursday. Tonight, it's Kyle Hendricks against Walker Buehler, 2 guys whose better days are behind them. Hendricks is 3-11 on the season with a 6.60 earned run average, and Walker Buehler, who is still recovering from some injuries, or I should say battling back from those injuries, is 1-4 on the year with a 5.67 ERA. So if the Cubs have any hope still to try to make the playoffs, you're going to have to win this series in LA easier said than done, but hopefully they can do some damage on Buehler tonight. But guys, that'll do it for the Cubs baseball channel. Thank you guys so much for joining us, talking some Cubs baseball with us, chopping it up about our favorite team. Keep on liking and subscribing, getting in that comment section, and also following us on the other social medias, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. But for now, we will talk to you tomorrow, hopefully after a Cubs win. Go Cubs.